Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Hello, welcome inside. It is another edition of the Bmore Baseball Podcast. I'm Jerry Coleman. He's Orioles Hall of Famer Mike Bordick, the 14-year veteran. We're producing brand new content every day on our X page, on our Instagram page, on our Facebook page. You can find them all at Bmore Sports Pod. That includes YouTube. When you subscribe to our YouTube page, very important, show us evidence, and you qualify for a $50 gift card from Lido Pizza. We've given out a bunch. We just need you to show us evidence, again, at Bmore Sports Pod. Today, episode number 23, Bordy, will be joined by former GM JP Ricciardi, guy who you have connections with, and you'll explain that. In addition, we'll talk about what it's like to be traded, something you've dealt with in the past and Orioles players are dealing with currently. Bordy also discusses playing against some of the newest members of the Baseball Hall of Fame. And then Dr. Michael Jacobs stops by for his weekly segment and examines the latest injury to the arm of closer Felix Bautista. And does it require a shutdown for the season? But let's bring in our featured guest. He's sponsored by Pappas Seafood. From crab cakes to seafood classics, they'll deliver straight to your door. 4 locations in the Baltimore area, plus nationwide shipping. Order today at pappascrabcakes.com. They ship them even to Massachusetts, where JP Ricciardi is, part-time podcaster, also a Libra. I got to throw that out there, as we were born on the exact same day, September 26th. I was just born a few years after you. Anyway, thanks for coming on. And Blue Jays in town this week. You, of course, were their GM between 2001 and 2009. How surprised are you at the run this team has made? Because I believe back in May, they were 26 and 28 at one point, JP, and now they're on top of the American League East, and as we speak, all of baseball.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on. It's great to see you guys, especially Bordy. We go back a long way. But as far as your question goes, I think, if you look back, this is probably the weakest the American League East has been in like 30 years. I can't remember a time when the Yankees weren't an absolute powerhouse and the Red Sox weren't an absolute powerhouse. So I think Toronto's taken advantage of a weaker division, and they're probably the best team top to bottom in the division. So I think they're playing really good baseball right now. They're getting good starting pitching. They can score some runs. I think it's more a byproduct of the division than it is of them, because when I look at them from a whole and the playoffs, I don't know how much they would scare me. I look at the Dodgers, I look at the Phillies, I look at teams like that. They would scare me, but I don't look at the Blue Jays as a team that it wouldn't surprise me if they get knocked out in the first round. I think the division is a byproduct of not being as strong as it's been in the past, but you have to give them credit. They're playing well.
Are playing well right now, but they might not be there in 2 months from now. That's how this league has been fluctuating, and I agree. Lack of talent for sure, in large part due to injury, and we'll get into that. But I want to go back and just introduce everybody to JP Ricciardi. JP and I go back 40-plus years. JP was a scout that signed me out of Cape Cod in 1986. And he ended up having an illustrious career, made it up to general manager, assistant GM with the Mets. And
was it based on that signing? Was it because of that signing?
Well, I'd like to think absolutely. But
it didn't hurt.
Hey, listen, he's been through a lot, and I just wanted him to kind of introduce himself. And I mean, 40-plus years in baseball, your kids are in the game. Go ahead, JP, introduce yourself a little bit.
It's honestly, I've been so lucky to be in baseball. My dad was a minor league player. We grew up in baseball, was fortunate enough to play professional baseball. And, I've done a lot of different things, a lot of different roles, but, I'm all done now. So none of it really matters to the point of where you're at right now. But, the Bordick story is a great story. I'll tell it to you real quick. I got to see Mike play a lot at the University of Maine. I always liked the fact that he competed and he caught the ball. And I was always attracted to the middle of the infield because that's where I played. And, he wasn't real physical at the time. He wasn't strong, but he always made contact. And so anyway, back in the day, I put my report in, and we couldn't find signability. It's not like it is today. You could barely talk to anybody back then, especially he played for a coach that wouldn't let us near the players. But anyway, long story short, the draft comes. We don't draft Bordy, and So my boss at the time was a guy named Dick Bogard, and he came down the Cape because our number 1 pick hadn't signed, Scotty Heeman. And they also had a shortstop there that we drafted in the 5th round. And so we go down to see Heeman, and the shortstop's playing. I forgot the kid's name, but he says, "What do you think of the shortstop?" I said, "The kid Bordick I had on my draft list way better than this guy." He goes, "You think so?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Can you sign him?" I says, "I'll try." So I said, matter of fact, he's playing after this game. I said, "Why don't you come over? You can get a look at him, and you can just say you saw him." So we go over, and Bordy plays, and didn't do anything great, but he says to me, "Go sign him if you think you can sign him." So I signed him, and the rest is history. And he's the one who did it. I mean, all I did was give him an opportunity, but it's up to the player to go out there and do the job. And you look up, like you said, I mean, great career, great. I actually, one of the cool things in my career was I was in Baltimore the day I think you set the fielding record.
Wow.
We were playing you guys. And
Okay.
I got to see him play in that game that broke the record. Was it consecutive errorless games?
Yeah, exactly.
That was a pretty cool feeling. So
very cool. And, and then we came back around and circled and finished it up at the end because the last year I played was with the Blue Jays in 2003. And I think what's really cool is within that time, JP, the game changed a little bit. You were part of the A's when Moneyball came in, and that was like the start, I guess, of analytic baseball. So you ended up becoming a GM in that era. Did you apply analytics? And look where it is today. Can you just talk to us about that run?
Yeah, so the funny thing about the Moneyball era was I was there. The main misnomer about Moneyball is we had no money in Oakland. So we had to find players. We found Matt Stairs. I could give you a list of guys, Tailgater and Reyes and Geronimo Pena. And we were digging guys up that no one was going to give a big league chance to because we had no money, but we had enough baseball fortitude to say, hey, someone got to give these guys a chance. So, Moneyball for me was really blown out of context. I mean, they made it a lot more of a story than it really was. We were just trying to survive. We were trying to get when you came up with the A's, we were owned by Levi Strauss, who was putting a lot of money into the team. Once the team was sold, the next group didn't want to put money. And then Sandy left and Billy became the GM. And, Billy and I played together in the minor leagues. We'd known each other forever. And he says, we got no money. So I was out scouting all over the place, finding guys, and we were just signing them and trying to give them an opportunity to play. So as far as the analytics come in, the things we paid attention to were the things everybody would pay attention to. Does a guy strike out a lot? Does a guy walk? Does a guy hit? Does he post? I mean, all the things that common sense baseball stuff. So now you fast forward to where it is today, totally out of control.
No common sense.
No, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I could not sign Mike Bordick today. And you think about it, I signed Tanyan Sturtz, who pitched 13 years in the big leagues. He was a 27th round draft pick. I signed a little left-hander I saw at an American Legion game while I was a GM for the Blue Jays by the name of Timmy Collins, who pitched 6 years in the big leagues, pitched on a World Series team. He's 5'5". He's 140 pounds. They wouldn't even let him in the locker room. They thought he was lying to get in the locker room when we signed him. You can't sign those kids today. And that, to me, is such a disservice to the game because players come in all shapes and sizes. I always say baseball players are like field goal kickers. They come from all over. You never know where they come from. There's going to be the guy who comes from the University of Maine. There's going to be the 5'5", 170-pound Altuve, who's a good player. When we start putting limitations on who can play our game and what they can do, we're doing a disservice. It's almost un-American what we've done to baseball. We've got the draft is only 20 rounds now. You know how many guys from the 21st round to the 30th round got to the big leagues? And here's the other thing. I know I'm going on a rant here. I apologize, but
love it. No, go.
The thing that we're missing is those guys from the 20th round to the 40th round. Those are the guys who might not play in the big leagues, but those are the guys who end up becoming college coaches, minor league coaches, youth league coaches, scouts. Their experience gives them opportunity to give back to the game. And we've lost that fabric. I've never, ever can imagine a point in our game where you could be an ex-minor league player or an ex-major league player and not get a job in baseball. That's how sad our games become.
More of the Bmore Baseball podcast coming right up. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly, or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every Grand Slam. Sounds like a ball, if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
Hello, my name is Reese Friedman, and I'm the daughter of Stephen L. Friedman and Rachel Friedman.
Hi, I'm Reese Friedman, a little bit older from the last time you saw me, but still the daughter of Stephen and Rachel Friedman and the granddaughter of Michael Friedman. Now, I'm here to tell you that the law offices of Michael Friedman are still the experts in the field of personal injury accident law. So if you or a loved one have been seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident, I do not want you to hesitate. Call us at 410-363-6848 or email us directly from our website, maflaw.com, for a free consultation. The law offices of Michael Friedman, serving the community for over 40 years.
Jerry Coleman here. I've been a client of the law offices of Michael A. Friedman for well over 25 years now. From motor vehicle accidents to other tort-related issues, 410-363-6848, or find them on their website at maflaw.com.
Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week, only at Relief Shop.
Yeah. And in talking about money, like the Blue Jays, the Orioles have gone a long time without a playoff win, but it seems like Toronto has more resources than Baltimore, even though despite new ownership coming in, a couple of billionaires. I mean, you can speak to what the Blue Jays resources are and maybe your impressions of the new Orioles ownership.
Well, when I was in Toronto, we didn't have any money. So I'm going to speak from 9 years in Toronto with a payroll never higher than $60 million combined, playing against 2 teams with, $200 million payrolls. But what I look at is we were always competitive, and Mike can speak to that. If I went back and looked, and in today's format, we would have made the playoffs 3 times. We drafted 55 players who played in the big leagues. We were able to trade, draft, or sign 9 players who became all-stars, came to Toronto. So even though we had limited resources, we still had that competitive baseball instinct to try to put the best team on the field that we could and to compete. One year we won 88 games. We went home. We came in second. The Cardinals won the World Series. They won 84 games. So it shows you how tough the American League East was. I think what we're lacking today, and by the way, the Blue Jays have the 5th highest payroll in baseball right now. So if you go look, the top, I think, 16 teams in both leagues are pretty much in the top 16 to 20 in payroll. So I'm not saying that money solves everything, but boy, it makes it a lot easier when you can fill in some blanks. When I look at the Orioles now, I don't know the ownership group. I look at them as a team that they apply the analytic philosophy. And yeah, I don't want to get anybody mad, but I'm retired. I can say what I want. So I don't really think the Orioles, the way they did it, is anything special. I mean, they basically tanked an organization for 6-7 years. They drafted in the top 3-4 picks every 100 pick. So you think about it, the top 100 players in the nation, they were getting 3 or 4 of them every year because they were tanking and they had high picks. So if you do that for a 5-year period, you think about the players. So say it's a 20 players you can bring in out of the top 100 over a 5-year period. If 10 of them fail and you hit on 10, you got 10 pretty good young players. But if you told me I could get the first pick, the 32nd pick, come around again to the 60-something pick, and then have another pick before the top 100, I'll take my chances that I could take 4 of the best players in the country. And they've done a good job drafting. I will give them credit for that. They've hit on the right guys. But I think what they've missed now is, and this is the test of any free agent, of any front office, now you got to close to the finish line. But if you don't have that front office that can put you over the hump and keep the Burnses and bring in the other guys that help add on to what you already built, that's the true test to me of a front office. So what they've done, I give them credit for. I don't think it was anything earth-shattering. Houston did it. The Cubs did it. They tank. You know, my wife could tank a baseball team. It's not real hard. But what they were able to do is get good players, build them up, but they've traded a few away. I just think they're in the point now where they've got this nucleus, but they're not taking advantage of it. And that, to me, is the test of what you are as a general manager.
No, I agree totally. And I think he's been, I think, tested here with the trade deadline now upon us, and also, off-season strategies for sustainable success. I think that's what the question mark is. What just happened over that window of 7 years to where now we're scrambling and kind of laughed at in the American League East. One question about, I'd stay on the analytics and actually the state of the game right now. One thing I've noticed is now that they've filtered out a lot of the baseball people that you and I talk about, the game itself, I feel, is hurting. I mean, guys don't know where to throw the ball. Situational baseball has gone by the wayside, and all they talk about is exit velocity and spin rate. That's it. That's all they shoot for now, not true baseball.
Right. So you are a very, very good defender. How insulted would you be if you had to look down at a wristband to tell you where to play a hitter? I can't believe we've dumbed the game down so much that, I don't know, if you've got Greg Olson on the mound and he's snapping off unbelievable top-to-bottom breaking balls, and this guy's out in front, and you move over to the hole because you know he's out in front. You see the sign, you play the hitter to how the at-bats come in, not 700 at-bats that they've analyzed and tell you where he's going to hit the ball. It's so insulting what we've done to big league players. And the young players coming up only know this way. Yeah. So they don't push back. And I just saw it with the Christian Campbell kid in Boston. They've raved about this kid. I'm watching him last year in AAA, and I'm saying, unless he starts hitting the ball the other way, this kid's going to be in some trouble in the big leagues. He might get away with some stuff early because he's dead red, full pull hitter, front hip leaks early. And now this poor kid, I'm watching him, his head is swimming. He's got no recourse to how do I fix this? And no one's telling him. First thing I would say to the kid is eliminate left field and just start hitting the ball the other way. Just start making some contact. Even if you ground out to second base, you'll feel good about staying on the ball. But we have no one who does it. So what they go back to is they say, well, here's your metrics. You're not lifting the ball enough. The barrel bat speed isn't strong enough. Whatever they come up with. And getting back to the Blue Jays, the reason they're winning, they lead all of baseball in contact. Imagine that concept. You can actually put the ball in play and make something happen. Wow. So I'm one of the guys that pushes back. I don't believe in the one knee catching. I don't get that at all. I don't understand how, with runners on base, you can look a pitcher in the face and say, oh, I backhanded that ball or rode up my arm instead of blocking that ball. Yeah. I don't understand runner on second and third, infield playing in. For the life of me, I can't get my head around that one. And you played shortstop a long time. If a guy whistles a ball over your head, you gotta go in the dugout and say, what was his exit velocity on that ball? Yeah. If that ball would have took me in the left field if I caught it. So I think what we've gotten away from is common sense, and I think we're hiding behind all these metrics that justify whatever they think they want it to justify, but we're getting away from feel for the players. And, I'd like to know, would someone walk up to Schwarber and tell him something about his swinging, or Bryce Harper? The guys have been around a little bit. I don't think they buy into some of this stuff. I think it's the young kids, and I really think they've hurt a lot of young kids as players.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Bryce Harper's name. I'm going to get to him in just a moment. But I did want to ask you, JP, about the trade deadline time. And how did you approach things in terms of dealing with the players and informing the manager of maybe what was going on behind the scenes, or did you not?
No, I always thought, listen, you're either a teammate or you're not a teammate, right? So the players, I never believed in that barrier between the front office and the players. I always thought the clubhouse was the players' place. I never went in the clubhouse. Only on occasion I'd go in there. But I was always down around by the coach's office and always had an opportunity to talk to the players, especially during batting practice. I wanted the players to know that we're in this together. And even though, you're the, I work for the team and we pay you this and that, I thought at some point you had to get rid of that and you had to be a teammate. So I tried to keep the players informed as well as I could within reason. Obviously, if I was going to trade someone, I wasn't going to tell them that you're getting traded. But, certain guys I would say, listen, we're trying to add another pitcher. This is one guy we're talking to. Hey, you played with him over here. Good guy. Should we bring him in? Is he going to wreck the clubhouse? So I thought you're either a teammate or you're not a teammate. So trying to include the players up to a certain point I thought was important. And you also need to let those guys know that, hey, I'm trying to make the team better. And that's not just in Toronto. It was in Oakland and it was in New York. Not San Francisco because that guy didn't even know what he was doing. But that was an example of having no involvement with people. San Francisco might have been the worst situation I've ever seen as far as the front office is here, the players are here, no interaction. I just don't know how you're with these guys 6 months a year and you don't have interaction with them. I mean, it's right. Isn't it common sense? Or even, I like to talk to players about, hey, I noticed with 2 strikes, you took 2 more steps to the hole on that ground ball. Why? What were you thinking on this pitch when you flared the ball down the line? Or just to let the players know you're paying attention, number one. Number two, you want to know what they're thinking. And you get feedback. And you're supposed to learn every day you're on a baseball field. And I think the only way you learn is if you spend time talking to each other.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only coaches are driveline coaches now that will come up and talk to them about their exit velocity and things like that, which is very unfortunate. And I know this is another subject, the injuries and how driveline kind of got into the game of baseball. And we're going to talk about that later on. But JP, I was part of a trade, a big trade, but I witnessed a trade up in Toronto, and I don't know if this brings back good memories or bad memories. All I know is the guy you traded for was one of the best teammates I've ever been around. Bobby Kilty, you got from the Twins. You traded Shannon Stewart away. And when Kilty came out of the team, man, he was just clubhouse comedy from the moment he stepped in. I love that.
Well, the Kilty story is a funny one because, and this goes back to what I think is missing today, relationships. So I knew Terry Ryan was a minor league instructor when I played in the Mets organization. So Terry and I went back forever. I knew he liked Shannon Stewart. Billy Beane, great friend, I knew liked Bobby Kilty. So we couldn't get pitching to come to Toronto because we had no money. So I knew I could get Ted Lilly for Bobby Kilty. But in order to do it, I had to trade Shannon Stewart to get Bobby Kilty, but Terry Ryan couldn't eat any money. So I said, I already spent the money on Shannon Stewart. It's gone. So I traded Shannon Stewart to Minnesota. I told Terry Ryan, we'll eat the rest of the contract. And they were cheap, Minnesota. So they were excited about that. They traded us Bobby Kilty. And Terry Ryan says to me, I'm going to tell you right now, JP, if you turn Bobby Kilty around and trade him for Ted Lilly, to Billy. No, he didn't say Ted Lilly. He goes, if you trade him to Billy, he goes, I'm going to be so pissed off at you. He said, you better not do that. So I said, okay. So I knew I was going to do it all along. We get Kilty. I don't know if you remember, he hit a home run his first game in Fenway. So anyway, he was a good guy. And like 2 weeks later, I trade him. I get Ted Lilly, who became an all-star with us. And Terry Ryan calls me up. He goes, son of a bitch. He goes, I told you not to trade him. I said, yeah, but you didn't tell me how long I had to wait. So I said, tough luck.
Nice.
So that's the Bobby Kilty story.
Last thing I have for you, JP, you mentioned Bryce Harper earlier. It was reported that he and Rob Manfred went face-to-face, nose-to-nose inside the clubhouse. The commissioner trying to talk about a salary cap, the players saying no bueno. Do you think this will ever be allowed by the Players Association?
probably not by the Players Association, but I think at some point baseball is going to get to a fork in the road where they're going to have to decide. What I don't understand about baseball is why isn't there a minimum cap? I don't think teams should have a $60 million, $70 million cap and not be forced to spend money. If they raised the bar and said, listen, you have to have a minimum of $150 million, a lot of guys are going to get paid with that. And then maybe you have a top cap of $400 million that can increase over time, but then the bottom one has to increase as well. I don't know if a cap is coming. It's the only sport that doesn't have a cap. I think there's going to be a lot of pushback at some point, but I think maybe what Bryce Harper's missing the point at is Bryce Harper's going to get paid no matter what. I mean, the guys who aren't going to get paid are the 25th guy. I mean, they're going to make the minimum, and they're the guys that you hope you can raise the bar a little bit. That's why I thought if they move the salaries on some of these clubs like Pittsburgh and Tampa and some of the clubs, well, Colorado's got 120, and they're not very good, but you could get it up to $150 million. That's going to raise some salaries right there. So I don't know if it's coming or not, but I don't know. A couple of years, we're going to see the collective bargaining agreement's up, and I don't know if our game can afford to get stopped anymore.
No, that will be an interesting time for sure. It's been a very interesting time with you. We appreciate you coming on and joining us here, JP. Great.
Thanks a lot. Always good seeing you.
So much, man. Thank you.
Good seeing you, boy. Take care, you guys.
Seeing you, JP.
All right, JP Ricciardi joining us here. That was a lot of fun.
More of the Bmore Baseball Podcast coming right up. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer. Or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone. Exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955. Proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. They say it all comes back to your roots, right? At Grassroots, high-quality cannabis is in their nature. From soil to soul, their passion for cannabis and community inspires everything they do. Try your favorite strains from their cultivar library of top-shelf flower, pre-rolls, and concentrates. Whether you're cheering from the stands or chanting for the O's at home, their crafted flower helps you curate the perfect game day. Ask for Grassroots Cannabis at your favorite dispensary in Maryland. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
Let's move on to For the Birds, which is always sponsored by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. And playing the Maryland Lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not about your favorite games. Learn the facts and the myths at mdlottery.com. That's mdlottery.com. And as always, please play responsibly. The trade deadline is upon us. Orioles have made some moves. We're going to recap them during next week's episode. But Mike, for you, the only time that you were traded, what was it like? I mean, to be dealt to the Mets from the Orioles back all the way in 2000, the beginning of this century.
Yeah. It was a little bit of a shocker. I guess I always wanted to experience everything the game had to offer. But at that point, the Orioles were underachieving. I think a lot of players realized that there was going to be a sell-off. And it was a sad time. I think anytime a player takes the field, they want to win for their city. We had great players that really cared about doing good things. And there was a huge trade-off, man. B.J. Surhoff got traded, Will Clark, Mike Timlin, Charles Johnson, myself. And I know when I got traded, I never thought I was ever going to come back to Baltimore. That's kind of the weird thing. And I don't know that anybody ever does. The one thing I was thankful for is when I got on the train to ride up to New York, Queens, I was around a lot of Mets fans. And they were fired up about the trade. Ray Ordonez had gotten hurt. The Mets had kind of worked their way into playoff talk. and they needed somebody to jump in there. And, the Orioles ended up getting Melvin Moore out of the deal. And I had the experience of a lifetime playing at Shea Stadium, playing in the Subway Series. Listen, I might not have played that great, but that experience in and of itself was really, I think, a culminating part of my career. I'm getting chills just talking about it. I remember the highway shutting down and people flipping us off or cheering us, whatever team it was. But it was a great experience. And then I ended up coming back to the Orioles. As a player getting traded, I mean, you try to settle your roots in. It's such an unstable lifestyle. There are a lot of tears, shed when you get pulled away from a team. I mean, you put your heart and soul into it, and you really care about doing something good for your city. And unfortunately, in 2000, it didn't work out for the O's.
Yeah, I remember that was a big sell-off. Everyone took it like a man, except BJ Surhoff, who broke down in tears. And I understand why. He had an emotional tie, but that was just a way of taking a cheap shot at BJ, because I remember him crying like when Mike Schmidt retired. I haven't seen too many tearful press conferences like that. But the feeling had to be like the Orioles, and the Orioles fans felt this. They were waving the white flag at that juncture.
No, absolutely. And I think that's kind of the feel right now with this Orioles team. Everybody's kind of waiting for the next shoe to drop, where all of a sudden it's not just one guy getting traded, it's four more guys just gone. So the structure of the whole clubhouse changes dramatically. And these young guys are experiencing this at the major league level, and hopefully it makes them stronger and get a little calloused, I think, about this kind of thing, and understand that you have to be a pro, man, and you got to still go out there and do your work. And when you cross the white lines, you better be ready to compete.
And real quickly, looking around the rest of the clubhouse for the guys that are left in the room, I think a message is sent to them as well.
No, absolutely. You better perform or, you're going to get moved. And that's the thing right now. I think some of these guys too, even though their stock was up, their value was up a couple months ago, everybody's kind of dropped a little bit. There's some question marks about the pitching. So is Mike Elias really going to pull the trigger? And is he going to get the value back that he wants for some of these guys? But I think as far as a salary dump and kind of resetting this organization, it's something they have to do.
Yeah, and we're recording before the deadline hits, so we'll recap it all next week. All right, let's head beyond Baltimore. It's brought to you by Relief Shop, Baltimore's best adult use and medical cannabis dispensary, with 700 plus unique menu items and home delivery available for medical patients only, courtesy of Relief Shop. Now, Bordy, we just had the Baseball Hall of Fame weekend. I wanted to ask you about some of the newest entries. I know you got a chance to play against guys like CC Sabathia and Ichiro Suzuki. We talked about Dave Parker in a recent episode after his death. You did not play against Billy Wagner. Now, I will just state, in my opinion, the only guy that deserved to go in was Ichiro. I just think that the Hall of Fame needs to sell tickets. It's an event. They need to put people in from different parts of the country, and that's why maybe some of these guys got in. But what was it like to play against those two, Ichiro and, of course, CC Sabathia, who has over 3,000 strikeouts?
Yeah, and I think I did play against Wagner, although I never faced him. No, I think I got pinch hit for at the end. That's for sure. Bobby Valentine. Anyway, Ichiro, I think you're absolutely right. One of the greatest players I've ever seen. An incredible combination, defensive skills, offensive skills. He could handle the bat as well as anybody. Honestly, I think if somebody said, well, Ichiro, I'd like you to hit 25 home runs and drive in 120, he could do that at will. I mean, that's how talented he was with the bat. He would put immediate pressure on a defender, man. At shortstop, you'd have to shorten up, especially someone like me that didn't have that cannon arm like a Gunnar Henderson. So I had to shorten up the field. I had to anticipate, because if he had a chopper and you had to go the other way, you weren't anticipating, he was going to beat it out. He was one of the fastest runners out of the box. It's almost like he cheated to get momentum out of the box. My gosh, he had 262 hits. 1 year, just amazing records. I mean, stuff that you just say, how does this happen? I mean, I was never even close to 200 hits, let alone 262 hits. The things he did on the field were amazing. And I think something that gets overlooked was his defense. His arm was incredibly accurate, and he worked on his craft, in Japan as well. Just a great world-class athlete. As far as CC Sabathia goes, he's one of the first now that you see the bar getting lowered. And I'm not taking anything away from CC. He's a great pitcher and should certainly be talked about. But you're right. I think the bar starts to get lowered a little bit. I don't know that there are going to ever be 300 game winners anymore. We'll be lucky if we see 3,000 hits, 500 home runs. A former Oriole might get close though, and Manny Machado. I think he's the next guy that could possibly have a shot at that. But CC Sabathia was a young player when I faced him with Cleveland. Big arm. I got a couple hits off him. I even think I took him deep. But then I think when everybody figures out that you can get on a fastball, that's when he started throwing a changeup to me. So he started abusing me. He used his full repertoire. But it was fun to see how talented some of these guys are. And I think the Hall of Fame classes here, a few years ago and now coming up for the next 5 years, guys that I had a chance to play against and kind of see their careers. So it's been a lot of fun to see these guys get this opportunity.
Yeah, two things about what you said. First of all, I always knew that Ichiro could speak English, and we saw it in full array there at the Hall of Fame. He did his speech in English. We knew he was hiding at times behind that. CC Sabathia, 3,000 strikeouts. I think Clayton Kershaw is the last guy that's going to get that milestone in 3,000 strikeouts because these guys don't pitch long enough. As far as future classes, next year, the top headliners, Cole Hamels and Ryan Braun, Carlos Beltran, and Andrew Jones are also still out there.
Yeah, well, I think Cole Hamels, strong lefty, he'll have a shot. Ryan Braun, man, there's a lot of controversy with him.
He was suspended for steroids.
Yeah, absolutely. So he won't get a look. I think Andrew Jones is pretty interesting. He ended up playing a long time. His numbers are undeniable, but his first 10 years and his last 10 years are the argument. His first 10 years, hands down, best center fielder in the game. He did things that nobody could do. As a matter of fact, when you see major league players, do things like this, like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. It was a nightly basis for this guy. Home runs at 20 years old in the World Series. Are you kidding me? He was a superstar for 10 years, and then he let himself go and hung on for the next 10 years. I think he's deserving. I think players should be recognized for their 10-year bursts, when they were dominant in the league, and Jones definitely was.
All right, we'll see what the voters think about that. Let's move on to What's Up, Doc? What's Up, Doc is sponsored by the law offices of Michael A. Friedman, my personal attorneys for over 25 years. Always a live person when you call the law offices of Michael A. Friedman, and you do that at 410-363-6848. Again, that's 410-363-6848. All right, Doc, Felix Bautista became the 26th Oriole to spend time on the IL. He, of course, missed all of last year due to Tommy John surgery, a totally different injury than this shoulder injury, but it's the same arm. So your level of concern, and do you think he pitches again this season?
Well, first of all, I want to say J.P. Vicardi was fantastic. He was a pleasure to listen to. I think his assessments of Mike Elias's pluses and minuses were right on. I had a little trouble with his New York accent, but once I translated the words,
he's from
Boston accent. I'm sorry. I bet his Boston accent. I was okay, but it took me a while. But I also think the Hall of Fame is a bit watered down these days. That aside, this is very worrisome with the Felix. You guys probably don't know it, but he has had shoulder problems in the past. That's one of the reasons he was so slow to get to the majors. Clearly, his control was a problem too, but he clearly has had shoulder issues in the past. And as we've discussed in the past, when you have major elbow surgery, then you have a second elbow surgery, probably because his elbow is a little stiff and arthritic, you may change your shoulder motion to compensate. And clearly, despite the fact he's become a bit more diverse, he's still a pure power pitcher. Similarly, I've never heard in my 30 years a diagnosis of shoulder swelling. I don't know if that means there's swelling inside the joint, or it could mean he has a full thickness cuff tear and there's swelling outside the joint. It was curious because Ben McDonald did a great job last night of describing the fact that all pitchers at that age have abnormal shoulder MRIs. And we've discussed how do you pick the ones that can keep going. But if he has swelling in his shoulder, that could mean anything from arthritis to a full thickness cuff tear. And it's very hard to treat that. They're probably going to put him on anti-inflammatories. As Ben suggested, he's probably going to get his shoulder drained of some of the fluid and get a cortisone shot. But I got to figure he's down for the year. I think there's no reason to push it. He's going to be completely shut down, I would almost certainly suspect. And then the startup process is going to be very slow. They don't want to aggravate his elbow, of course. So I would say it's over 85, 90%. He's done for the year, unless there's some one-in-a-century revival of the Orioles to get into the playoffs. The playoffs would still be 2 months away, but that certainly seems unlikely. And unless something like that happens, he's down. And it is worrisome is where they go from here, because they've got an MRI, and the manager was somewhat forthcoming in describing it. But what he said is, we have no idea what's going on. So that's kind of a strange comment to make to the public. I mean, many teams would have said nothing. The Orioles in general are pretty straight with the press, and they don't lie. So I really have to think that they're not exactly sure what's going on here.
Yeah. Well, I was just happy, and Bordy, you can speak to this, because at least, unlike Zach Eflin, the last time he was hurt, Felix felt this during warm-up in the bullpen time and said something to a coach.
Well, if you have fluid in your joint, many people have had water on the knee, which is similar. The joint is tight because there's not enough room for the fluid, and you do know it. It's unmistakable that something's not right. You lose motion because if his rotator cuff is not fully torn, the fluid is contained in the shoulder joint, and if it's crowded in there, you lose range of motion, and you certainly can't pitch without good range of motion.
I just feel like it's really bizarre to me that so many pitchers in the organization, and I'm sure it's league-wide because I think they're all on the same kind of driveline program, Tommy John or elbow problems, and then all of a sudden shoulder problems. They can't balance things out. It's unbelievable the amount of shoulder and elbow injuries now in the game.
Look, to go back to what Riccardi said, I meant to mention Suzuki. Ichiro is a perfect example of a player who might not get looked at today, because I remember the first time I saw him in batting practice, I couldn't believe how tiny he looked. Now, he had giant calves, which I still remember, but he was tiny, and obviously he can hit. And similarly, the way he kind of puts the ball in play, it's not like his bat speed's always over the top. But there's no question the search for pure velocity and ball movement from ball rotation is having these guys figure if they can't do it, they're gone. And it's clearly the abundance of pressure on the statistics without watching the game. Like he pointed out, why do these guys have to look at cards to see where to play people? I mean, you got to look at how the game's played. I mean, it's outrageous. And it's going to take a couple of owners who have the foresight to recognize that this is out of control for this to change.
Yeah, we'll see if that occurs. That'll be a different day for sure. Dr. Michael Jacobs, always appreciate your input, courtesy of the law offices of Michael A. Friedman. Gratitude to all our sponsors. We salute their support of this podcast.
They say it all comes back to your roots, right? At Grassroots, high-quality cannabis is in their nature. From soil to soul, their passion for cannabis and community inspires everything they do. Try your favorite strains from their cultivar library of top-shelf flower, pre-rolls, and concentrates. Whether you're cheering from the stands or chanting for the O's at home, their crafted flower helps you curate the perfect game day. Ask for Grassroots Cannabis at your favorite dispensary in Maryland.
Hello, my name is Reese Friedman, and I'm the daughter of Stephen L. Friedman and Rachel Friedman.
Hi, I'm Reese Friedman, a little bit older from the last time you saw me, but still the daughter of Stephen and Rachel Friedman and the granddaughter of Michael Friedman. Now, I'm here to tell you that the law offices of Michael Friedman are still the experts in the field of personal injury accident law. So if you or a loved one have been seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident, I do not want you to hesitate. Call us at 410-363-6848 or email us directly from our website, maflaw.com, for a free consultation. The law offices of Michael Friedman, serving the community for over 40 years.
Jerry Coleman here. I've been a client of the law offices of Michael A. Friedman for well over 25 years now. From motor vehicle accidents to other tort-related issues, 410-363-6848, or find them on their website at maflaw.com.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly, or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every grand slam. Sounds like a ball if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
We also have to salute, because it says it in the script, senior executive producer Chip Franklin for putting this latest episode together. He works tirelessly. Depending on which coast he's on, it doesn't matter what time it is. Until next week, be kind, be real, and make sure to be back for another episode. It's the Bmore Baseball Podcast. Take care.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.